Okay guys, so I've just started recording. So before I proceed with today's session, I want someone to give me a quick recap of on what we did on Friday, or not on Friday, on Saturday. That will give me a head start to start with. Okay, go ahead.
Gone through the boundary and levels.
Mm-hmm.
We have configured the boundary levels. And one more doubt, Manohar, is this the Active Directory is directly linked with the boundary groups, right?
Yes, yes.
So my question is, Active Directory gets SCCM and the Active Directory
Mm-hmm.
get synced with boundaries only, right?
Get synced with the boundaries means I didn't get that.
Okay. The only connection from Active
Is
Directory
not.
and
No, no, no,
CCM
no,
is boundary.
no, no. Nothing like that. Nothing like that. So it's not the boundary which is connecting Active Directory in this. It is like you have extended Active Directory schema, right? And since you have extended Active Directory schema, some class and attributes are created. And once you create this site and everything, automatically this information is getting published over Active Directory. Enter every information like your site code, your boundaries, or the client installation properties. So many things are getting published onto Active Directory. So those two are not linked because since you have created boundaries. No, it's not like that.
So
Okay.
where I mean, uh, we
See
need a
boundaries.
connection points.
See boundaries. Why we are creating boundaries are to define like a client machine when it is part of a particular boundary. Eventually, it will be part of a boundary group, right? So because all these boundaries are part of boundary groups, so any client machine which is part of a particular IP address range or Active Directory site or a subnet, it will automatically identify that okay, since I'm part of this particular boundary, I'll be part of a specific boundary group. Once it is part of a boundary group, for each boundary group, you have a defined site and a site server from where it has to download the content or talk to, right? So boundaries and boundary groups are created so that a client machine would know to which server it has to communicate with. So that is how you're defining and telling that, okay, this is your server in your location. This is your server in your location. Like that, you are setting the boundaries and assigning the servers. That's the whole purpose of boundaries and boundary groups. So when you're talking about Active Directory, right? So since Active Directory, um, the SCCM server is also in the same domain, right? Your Active Directory domain controller is also in the same domain. Your SCCM server is also same domain. You are extending the schema and you are giving SCCM site server permissions onto systems management container, system management container, right? If you remember in the system management container, we have given all kinds of permissions for SCCM site server, right? So now the site server is writing this data. Since you have given it permissions, it is writing the data onto the domain controller. See, if I open the domain controller, you remember when we created system management container, it was empty, right? There was no entries in the system management container. Right now, if I go back there, Manju, I see you're logged off and logged in back. Are you able to hear us now?
Uh, I'm able to hear. I don't know it was locked off and now I'm able to hear.
Okay, okay, good. So as you can see now, under system management container, right? You have these things like your site, the management point, right? You have the roaming boundary ranges, the sites, and the site code. So everything has been published over here. So these things earlier they were not there. The moment you created a new SCCM server, you have built a new SCCM site server, the primary site server, right? And you have given delegated it complete permissions over here. That's how they both are connected. That's how this information has been written here. Sorry, the security. Say may SCCM is the computer account of the SCCM site server, right? For it we have given full control. That's the reason how it is able to write all this information here. Is it clear, Sai?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So can one of you give a quick brief on what we covered on the other day? Guys, I know you all are experienced and you're well aware of this corporate world and everything, but a small suggestion. So what happens is when you're giving any interviews, right? Always uh, try to explain more. Okay, explain more. It should be to the point. You should not deviate the concepts to different things and different other things. But when somebody asks you on any question, try to give more details. Try to recollect about it and try to give more details. That will show how technically how strong you are, right? Or how well you are well versed with that particular subject and how much hands-on experience you have. People will judge you based on the kinds of terms that you use or based on the kind of different scenario situations that you talk through, right? This is just a suggestion. So keep that in mind. So as and when we are progressing in SCCM, so keep that also in the mind because you guys are learning this in a 30 days course, and then you are going to either showcase as if you have experience on this within your organization or outside your organization, right? And try to move up in your careers. So in that case, what I would suggest is try to be more confident on the subject, and whenever you have an opportunity to talk about the subject, talk as much as possible, right? Why I'm saying all this, I'm just asking you when I ask you to just give a brief, that take that as an opportunity and talk about the subject, what we have done thoroughly, and that gives you more confidence, right guys? Okay, let's proceed further. So as part of Saturday's session, so what we have discussed is we have created different discovery methods. We have discussed on the discovery methods like system discovery, user discovery, the group discovery, and we discussed about network discovery and hardware discovery, right? So these are the different discoveries we have discussed, and then out of which Forest would create sites and based on the subnets and sites and subnets, it would create automatic boundaries, and group discovery will discover the groups and the group memberships. Similarly, system discovery is for the, as the name suggests, for the computers, and user discovery for the user accounts, right? And network discovery is for the any network devices like your printers or IP-based phones or SNMP devices. And then coming to heartbeat discovery, that is something which would be checking periodically with your client agents to see if they are still active, still communicating back to the management point or not. And accordingly, in future, what you do is you'll configure your site maintenance tasks to decide whether these machines should be still there in your environment or you need to purge them, right? So that is all we discussed about about the discovery methods. And then coming to the boundaries. So what we did was we discussed about how to create boundaries manually, and also we have allowed the forest discovery to create boundaries on its own, like the IP address range and the Active Directory site, right? Then we have created boundary groups, and on boundary group, it's only on the boundary group you will have an option to uh, set it for a site code, right? To assign it to a site and then to the site servers, right? And see why I wanted you guys to install this over the weekend or as soon as possible to install the lab is many times what will happen is, even though I give you an overview of the subject, I tell you how the process flows and everything, there will be still there will be a small radio button here or a tab there, which I might miss sometimes intentionally and sometimes unintentionally, right? So when you install it on your own and when you start exploring the product, right, that's when you get you'll understand the subject more, right? So for instance here, as you can see, there is something called change connection. We did not discuss anything about this. I'm sure about that. Like you can see connection fast here. So what does that mean? So why is it changing from fast to slow, and how is it going to help you in the later sessions, right? I want you to explore such things, and if you still have any doubts, I want you to come back and ask me, right, guys? So try to make use most out of these sessions. Now, so discovery methods, boundaries, and boundary groups are done. So after that, what are we supposed to do? We are trying to make an unmanaged client as a managed client, right? So out of that, I've discussed about three steps. One is discover the machines, then define your boundaries, and finally install the client agent, right? So let's look into the third thing, which is installing client agent. Okay, so client agent installation. So before we talk about installing Sccm client agent, can any one of you tell me what are the different ways of installing any application for that matter, not only SCCM client agent. SCCM client agent is just like an application, right? So what are the different ways of installing any application?
Through group policy, Active Directory group policy.
Perfect. The group policy. And any other thing?
Uh, Pushing from the
Sorry, pushing
by
from where?
manual
Looks like two of you are talking together. Uh,
manual installation.
Manual. Go ahead. So what are the different ways of installing any application for that matter? So you said you will push it through group policy, you will install manually. So I guess when you're saying installing manually, it can be double clicking that particular exe or MSI. That's one way. The other way is you can even consider scripts, like scripts or command lines or batch files with some silent parameters, right? So that is also one other way. Okay. What are the different other ways?
Using some other third party which is connected to SCM, pushing from that third party to a machine.
So kind of software deployment tools, some third-party software deployment tools. Okay, good. Anything else? Keep thinking. What are the other different ways of making sure that all your, say suppose there are some 100 machines and you wanted to make sure that these 100 machines have a VLC media player, right? So how do you do it? Yes, you will push it through group policy. You can install manually on these machines. You can write a script or a command batch file and use silent parameters, or you can use some software deployment tools to push this. That's all, or anything else. You can do logon scripts. As part of logon scripts, you can push applications. What else? Is that all? Right. Okay. So you can do PSEXAC. You might have used that, I guess, right? Which is a remote tool, right? You take a remote control of the other tool, other machine, and you can run a script from here to install that. And maybe in the image, the Windows client image, right? When you create an image to deploy, you can include that in the inside the image, right? You can include in the image. right? So apart from this, what else you can do is, since we are we are talking about client agent now. So even for client agent, all these still holds good, like group policy, manual installation scripts, software deployments tools, logon scripts, and all these holds good. Apart from this, since we have SCCM here, so you can do it from SCCM client push wizard. There's a client push wizard, or SCCM site-wide client push, right? Or else you can do it from SCCM software update, right? Software updates. Guys, do you have any questions in the top 5? I will talk about anything which starts with SCM, but do you have any questions on how do you install through group policy, or how do you install from any one of those? Do you have any questions there? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, like I'm not aware about that. I heard, but I'm not aware how that can be done from scripts and now on scripts, DXT. Uh,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah, okay. So from the SCM views of it.
I didn't understand completely, Manju, but I'm thinking that I hope that you are aware of how to push any other application, not SCM client agent, but any other application. If you have the source file like the exe or MSI, and if you know the command how to install it, right? If somebody gives you this is the command line to install it, then I guess you are comfortable in pushing it through, in either installing it manually or pushing it through some kind of scripts, right?
Uh, no, like I'm not aware of. I mean, I heard about this, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't done or know the procedure how to do via scripts and logon scripts
Mm-hmm.
and PSEXE remote tool and also client push wizard
No,
SCM
no.
and
Anything I'm going to talk about that. Anything which starts with SCM, I'm going to talk about it. But anything which is like the default ones, I'm hoping that you would know. If you don't, what I would suggest is try exploring today. Just try to get some information about how logon scripts are created, or how PSExec tools work. Try to get some information today. And if you still have any doubts tomorrow morning, definitely I'll explain on how to do it using the other tools. Okay.
okay.
Okay, perfect. So let's move forward, which is very specific to SCCM. Now, so before you talk about the different deployment methods, these are all deployment methods, right? So before you talk about the deployment methods, so you need to know where exactly the source binaries are, right? And what is a command line to trigger this client agent installation. So if you know that, then you will be in a position to install it manually or use scripts, right? So where exactly you have this SCM client agent binaries? Let's go to the console. Let's go to the SCM server. So where did we install SCCM? So we have installed on this box, C program files, Microsoft Configuration Manager, right? And then you have this client here. So these are the binaries, right? You have ccm setup.exe. This is the main exe which will trigger the entire SCCM client agent installation. Okay. So what this ccm setup .exe will do is it will analyzed on based on your machine. It will see if all the prerequisites are there or not, which are required for SCM client agent to run, like your MSXML, your VC++, right? All these frameworks. So it will check if you have Silverlight and all these other prerequisites. If you don't have, it will download onto the client agent. And finally, the main MSI which is triggered for SCM client agent is called client MSI. Okay, so that's how a client agent installation will be completed, right? So this is the binaries. These are the binaries. So if you wanted to manually install, what you will do, you'll copy this onto a client machine, right? Then you will trigger the ccm setup.exe. Forget about the parameters, forget about everything. Just say suppose manually you just want to trigger, copy this bunch to any client machine and trigger ccm setup.exe. So automatically the client agent installation should start, right? Now let's see, since we know where the binaries are, right? Let's go to the console and see how is it deployed from SCM client push wizard. So what happens here is when you right click on any computer, when I say any computer that has been discovered by one of those discovery methods. If a computer is discovered by one of those discovery methods and you have the machine here, right? For example, mate S01. So what you can do is you can right click and say install client, right? This is called SCCM client push wizard. When I click here, right, you are getting a wizard and you'll have options to select. So for example, let's go through this. It says allow the client software to be installed on domain controllers. Say suppose when you're right clicking, say suppose if you have right clicked on a collection instead of a single machine. Let me do that. If you have done, okay, we don't have any collections. Okay, let me take the default collection. Say suppose you have right clicked on a collections here, right? And so you don't know, it might the collection might even have say suppose domain controllers. So the question here is, out of these 50 machines which are part of a collection, if you're asking me to install a client agent, even if a domain controller is there, should I install it or should I just skip the domain controller, right? So specifically we have an option only for domain controllers, right? So you can select based on whether you wanted to manage domain controller as part of SCM or not. So based on that you can select this. Then always install the client software. So even if you have agent already available, so that's what it is asking. When a computer already has the computer configuration manager client installed, you can repair, upgrade or reinstall the client software. So do you really want to always install the client software or just skip? If there is already a SCM client agent, do you want me to skip or do a repair or reinstall, right? So that's what this is. And the main thing is install the client software from a specified site, right? So this is your primary site. If you have multiple sites, you have a drop down box to select the different sites. So you're saying, okay, install it from my primary site and assign it to this particular site code, right? So when you say next, automatically the client agent installation will start. So this is from the SCM client push. You don't need to give any location where the SCM client agent is. It will automatically pick from that C program files configuration manager. It will pick from there and it will copy the contents to your client machine, right? Under C Windows CCM cache, it will create a folder called C Windows CCM cache. So there it will download all these files um, and then it will start installing installing the SCM client agent. Now let me take a step back and go to the administration. So here you have something called client installation settings and which is called client push installation. When you go here, you'll have an option to enable automatic site-wide client push installation. This means any device which is discovered as part of your discovery methods, when you click enable automatic site-wide client push installation, it will automatically get a client agent installed on it. So you don't need to right click on each and every computer, or you don't need to right click on the collection and install the client, right? So the moment you select here, so any device which is discovered will get the SCM client agent, right guys? And here also you'll have the same options like do you want to install the software on servers or just on the workstations or even on the configuration manager side system servers. So this is one option. The other one is regarding the domain controllers, right? And then when you go to the accounts, so here in the client push installation account, so why do we need client push installation account? So one of the prerequisites to install the client agent from this particular client push installation wizard or even from this client push installation site-wide client push installation option is that you need to have local administrative privileges, right? So if you don't give any account here, it will try to install with computer account, that is the site server's computer account. It will try to install with that, but your site server computer may not have local administrator privilege on all the client machines, right? So it is always preferred to have a separate account just for client push installations. Okay, in this case I'm giving a Sccm. What is our domain? It's mail right? Mail administrator password. You can verify and check on any machine if it has permissions or not. Let me check on um, DC, like admin share. I think the server name is maydc, right? Test connection. Yeah, the connection was successfully verified, right? So this has permissions onto the DC server. So similarly, you can even check on the test machine, right? So because it is a local administrator, you have the permissions. That right, guys? I see Anil is offline, but I hope he can go through the recording. Right. So basically, what we have done here is we have selected automatic site-wide client push installation. Then in the accounts, we have given an account to install this client agent, right? And then we have installation properties. So what are these installation properties? Guys, are you clear till now? Any questions till now?
Yes. Yes, Manohar. No questions from mine.
Okay, okay. I hope same with Manju and Sai as well. So now, as part of the installation properties, what we have here is, I told you two things. One is CCM setup.exe. The other one is client.msi, right? So basically CCM setup.exe is the main exe which will call all the prerequisites and then it will install the client.msi, right? That completes the client agent installation. Now the CCM setup.exe comes with some set of parameters and client.msi will also comes with some set of parameters like installation parameters, right? So if you want to give any one of those installation parameters, so what you would do here is anything which starts with slash, like, so there are some parameters for CCM setup. If you're doing with slash, that means it is for CCM setups.exe. If there is no slash, then it means it is for the client.msi. And when you're giving the properties here, first you have to give all the properties, all that you wanted to give for CCM setup.exe. You have to give all the properties, and then only you can move to client.msi properties, right? So basically, what do you have in these installation properties? It basically it will tell you like the site code. It will tell you to which management point it has to talk to. Okay, so there are some 15-20 different parameters. Let me just take you through those, but I'll just discuss on the ones which are required. Just give me a minute. Hello guys. Hello.
Yeah, Manohar.
Hey, I've been talking from since long time. Are you guys not able to hear me?
Yes, we was thinking you were reading something. We are not able to hear anything.
Come
Now
on,
we are
guys.
able to hear.
Come on, guys. You should have called out for that, right? Since when you are not able to hear me?
I don't know because you opened a PDF, so I thought you were reading or checking something in the backend.
Oh no, guys. I was explaining the PDF right from that time. I've been explaining like each and every parameter. Why is it used? Okay,
No,
fine.
when you open the PDF from that time on, we are not able to hear your voice.
Okay. Yes, someone should have raised it. Sorry, guys. So sorry for that. So actually, what I did was I opened the PDF file and I was keep on explaining that PDF file, like why and where you'll be using those parameters. Okay, let me go back into the PDF file once again then.
Because when you opened, we thought that I thought that you are checking or doing some setup ready due to that related my job. When I spoke.
No, 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 no. Actually, the whole intent of opening this PDF is to show you guys what are the different parameters available and then explain you like why each parameter is required. At least the high level parameters, not each and every parameter. So I was telling you like these are the default parameters that are available, and then I picked some 3 or 4 parameters out of them, and I was explaining you why they are required. So I was asking you if you have any questions. So I didn't hear from any one of you, so I got a doubt like whether you guys are able to hear me or not. Okay, okay, fine. So let me explain this again. I was explaining about CCM setup, so I don't know from where you guys did not hear me. Did I explain about CCM setup.exe will have a slash parameter and client dot sorry CCM setup, yeah, CCM setup.exe will have a parameter starting with slash and others will not have a slash. So you guys were there, right? When I was
We
telling you.
lost. I didn't hear from when you open up when you started opening a PDF, and from that on time onwards, we I stopped hearing.
Okay, okay. Is it the same case with Sai, Anil? Okay, okay, okay. Then I guess all of you were not able to hear me right from the moment I opened the PDF. Amma, are you back?
Yes, Manor. The same problem. I couldn't hear, so I restarted my computer.
Okay, okay. You guys should have asked me here. Nobody was speaking, so I was explaining the whole stuff, and then I was asking, do you have any questions? Since I did not hear anything from you, then I got it out finally. Okay, no issues. So even that's a mistake from my side. So unfortunately, somehow the mic was turned on to mute. Fine. Okay. Let's proceed further. So I was explaining about these different parameters under CCM setup.exe. So all the parameters which comes with CCM setup.exe, those will have a slash here, right? And anything which the client.msi will have, you will not have any slash there. Okay. And I just opened this PDF just for you guys to look into what are the different parameters that are available. Okay. But out of these, only there are some certain parameters which we typically use in our organizations, right? Not each one of them are not really required, right? So I just wanted to pick some few of them out of all of the out of this big list and explain you. So that's what I just did. So let me do it once again. So I was talking about um, see source. Say suppose if you're trying to install your CCM setup.exe manually, and you need to give a location uh, to download the installation files, right? So in that case, if you're installing it manually, so you'll provide this source location, right? Uh, So this parameter is used to give the location of the SCM client agent binaries. And then management point, to which management point it has to communicate with. So in that case, you will provide the management point information as part of CCM setup.exe. And similarly, I was talking about this no service. So what will happen is the no service is something like whenever you are installing SCM client agent manually from a command prompt or from a batch file or a script, so what will happen is by default it will use your local system account to install the client agent, right? So so most of the times your local system account will not have permissions onto the network resources, right? If it has to download Silverlight or MSXML, it will not have permissions onto the network resources. So what you will do is you will use /no service, which means you are telling SCM client agent should be installed with the current account or the account that with which you are running this command line, right? It should use that current account instead of using the local system account. So to emphasize that, what you'll do is as part of client agent installation, you'll put /no service, right? So as I told you, all of these parameters are not required. Those are not mandatory that you have to use these parameters. I'm just highlighting the ones that might come handy to you, right? And /logon, this is one more important parameter. So what will happen is, so whenever you're pushing through logon scripts, so what is the point of logon scripts? So every time when you're installing anything as part of logon script, when you're running any script, so every time you're logging into a computer, so automatically it will download, it will install as part of the logon process, right? So, but if you're trying to push SCM client agent as part of logon scripts, so what will happen every time user logs in, it will install SCM client agent. Next time the user logs in, it should not uninstall the previous one and again try to reinstall it, right? So what it has to do is, if it finds that SCM client agent is already there, it has to just skip it and it should not install again and again. If you're, say suppose if you're pushing it as part of logon scripts. So in that case, what you will do is, whenever you're pushing it through logon script, you'll put ccm setup.exe/logon. So it will understand that, okay, now I'm running ccm setup.exe as part of a logon process. So I should not keep on installing it again and again. So every time, if I next time if I find that SCM client is already there, I have to just skip the installation. So for that, you will use /logon. This is typically used when you're pushing it from logon scripts, right? So these are some of the main things which you'll use as part of ccm setup.exe. Similarly, you have for client.msi as well, and as I told you, for client.msi you'll not have any slash here, right? And the most important thing in when you're using client.msi are the SMS site code, right? The SMS site code and the SMS management point. So if you don't give this SMS site code, and say suppose if you mention it as SMS site code equal to auto, So what it will do, it will connect to the Active Directory domain service because you have extended schema. So it will know, like, okay, when you're saying auto, it would know that, okay, based on the information published on the Active Directory, I understand that this is the site code and this needs to be assigned. So automatically the client agent will get the site code from Active Directory domain services, right? Same goes with management point. And one more important thing as part of client.msa properties is your SMS cache size. Okay, so when I was on mute, I was asking you guys. So have you guys, any one of you worked on software distribution? Have you ever pushed any application from Sccm? So did you guys push using SCM any application anytime?
Yeah,
Manoj.
I did it.
Okay, so what will happen when you are pushing from SCM is like you must have observed that the application binaries, say suppose you are pushing VLC media player, right? So if you're pushing VLC media player, first of all it is downloaded to some XYZ location onto the client machine, right? It is downloaded somewhere, the entire binaries, and then it triggers the installation. So first of all it is downloading somewhere. That downloading location is called cache, SMS cache, right? So when it downloads to SMS cache and or CCM cache, right? So when it downloads to that location and starts installing, by default the cache size is 5 GB, right? Say suppose if your 5 GB is full, right? So today VLC has been downloaded, tomorrow some other applications are downloaded. So slowly the size has been full. So now it has consumed the entire 5 GB. Now what will happen when a new application you're trying to install, it has to download somewhere, right? But you have already consumed your 5 GB. So what will happen? In that case, so we call it as FIFO. It is first in, first out, right? FIFO, first in, first out. So any application which was downloaded first, okay, that will be first out, so that will be purged. So the first application, say suppose today you installed VLC, tomorrow Google Chrome, and like that you have installed some 100 applications, right? Now when you're trying to install the 101 application and you don't have space, 5 GB space, so the very first application's binary data will be deleted. Like you don't need those MSI CXs anymore, right? So very initially you might have installed VLC, so that will be deleted. So this is how the SMS cache size is always maintained within the 5 GB, right? Now, say suppose tomorrow you have an application which is more than 5 GB.
Uh, Hello,
Yeah, Manju.
Manor, can you explain from there where you said that it will be deleted? So from that point of time, I didn't understand. Uh, can you
Sure.
come which why it will be deleted? What is that?
See, what I was trying to tell you is CCM cache. So that is kind of a location where an application is downloaded. So you have, say suppose you have VLC, you wanted to push it. Let's assume that VLC is 100 MB. These are just numbers, okay? And you have Chrome, which is another 100 MB. Okay, just I'm giving some numbers to it. And tomorrow you wanted to install Office, which is of some 1 GB, right? Now what will happen is, say suppose like this, like Chrome and other things, say suppose you have some uh, for 40 applications which have already consumed the 4 GB of data, or some 50 applications you have already installed onto that machine, right? So all of them, 50 apps, have consumed 5 GB of data, 5 GB of space on your CCM cache. So what are they doing? They're just downloading the VLC binaries, the Chrome binaries. They're just downloading all these binaries onto your CCM cache and then triggering the installation. Now tomorrow, after once this 5 GB is filled, you are trying to install Office onto this machine. So when Office comes, Office sees that it requires 1 GB on your CCM cache. It will not find 1 GB of space because already the 5 GB is consumed and the maximum size is 5 GB. So what Office will do is it will start deleting up to 1 GB of data from this SCM cache folder. So how does it delete? It will not delete the applications which were installed recently. It will start deleting from the applications which were installed from the first, right? So it will remove VLC, Chrome and the other applications up to 1 GB. It will start removing from the CCM cache the initial applications. So when I'm saying it is removing, it is not uninstalling those applications. The applications are still there in your add remove programs. right? What it is doing is it is just removing the binaries of that application, the source files, the MSIs, the EXEs. That's what it is deleting, right? So that it gets more space and it can download Office and start installing Office, right? So this is called FIFO, first in, first out, right? So any application which is first in, that is the application which is going to be first out, right? So now, Manju, did you understand this part till this part?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Now the point here is, say suppose it's not Office. Now I have one more application. It is AutoCAD. Okay, and the application is, say suppose it is more than 5 GB, some 8 GB. Okay, now how does it is going to handle? Because at least if the AutoCAD size is 5 GB, it would have deleted everything which is in CCM cache, make it 0, then download AutoCAD, right? But here if AutoCAD size itself is 8 GB and your maximum size of your CCM cache is 5 GB, so how are you going to handle such kind of applications, right? So in order to handle such kind of applications, if you know that in your environment you're going to use applications which are huge and you wanted to have your application binaries, more application binaries on the client machine for more number of days. So what you will do here is, when you're installing SCM client agent, you have an option to set the SEC SMS cache size. So if you're selecting it as SMS cache size is equal to 100, right? So based on that, that would be the MB, right? Whatever the value you are giving here, that is the MB. So 100 MB of data, or if you want 10 GB, right? So you'll put 10240 MB. So based on that, your SCM cache size will increase, and that much space is given to your cache, so that tomorrow if even 8 GB application comes, it can happily sit there and without without the application getting failed. Otherwise, what will happen? AutoCAD will start downloading, and then it will says that application failed. So this is also one kind of a real-time scenario. So sometimes if you might see that while doing software distribution, you might see that the application download is failing, right? You'll check all the properties, you'll check the permissions, everything is fine. There are certain enough permissions are there, everything is fine, but still you don't understand why this application download itself is failing. The application download is failing because the size of cache is less than the size of the application. Make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Manoj.
So what you can also do is, if it is one of a case, say suppose you are saying that, okay, I don't want to put my SCM cache size as 10 GB always, because it is just only one application which requires, all other applications are less than that. So I don't think this needs to be set as part of my client installation properties. I don't want this to be the default thing. Okay, then don't do it. But what you can do is, when you require it for certain time, then maybe you can go to the client agent properties and you can also set it from there. So I'll show it later when we install client agent. I'll show you from where you can set that. Okay.
So
So
this CCM cache can be centrally can be managed overall complete machines for the quota to get increased or something like that.
yeah.
Let keep it something
So so
sufficient
what?
space.
So the sufficient space in the sense you're talking about the 5 GB. Can I do it for all the machines centrally from the console? Is that the question?
Yes, yes, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what I'm saying, right? So when you are setting this value as part of the installation properties, so I have opened the installation properties here, right? So if you're putting this value here along with SMS site code equal to May, if you give a space and put SMS cache size equal to, say suppose 10240, right? That means you have set the SCM cache to 10 GB. Now when you say apply, since this is a site-wide client push installation, so all your client agents will now have, instead of the default 5 GB, they will have 10 GB of space allocated for cache, right? So this is how centrally you can do it. But what I'm saying is, if it is just one of the case, so you don't need to give it here, just go with the default, and I will show you a little later on the client agent side how to do it. Okay. So before I apply, let me start my uh, machine, this machine here.
Manohar,
Mhm. Yeah.
you are able to hear me? Uh, so you written that that the word which is called rules, right?
Rules.
Hello. I mean, is it something the code which you written that SMS site code
Is equal to May.
equal to me?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. This is not like just in words. It will work, right? These are meant rules, right?
Yeah, that's what, right? So as you can see here, let me scroll down. Are you able to see my screen, which says
Yes.
SMS site code? Are you able to see the PDF?
Yes. Yes.
So if you see the SMS site code here, so if you mention SMS site code is equal to your site code, whatever is our site code is MAY, right? So if you put SMS site code is equal to MAY, so that itself is the syntax of the parameters. That's how you give it. You're asking whether the
Okay.
syntax is right or wrong, right?
No, no, no. I meant that is it something as simple words to write down, or it is a syntax like that? Only I have my question.
Yeah, this itself is the syntax, buddy. SMS site code is equal to MAY or whatever is your site code. That itself is the syntax. There's no other, slash or something else you need to give. You just mention all these parameters just by giving spaces. SCM will understand.
Okay, okay.
Okay. So now where are we? Okay, let's go back here, and I'm disabling this automatic site wait client push installation because I wanted to do it just on one machine, not onto the entire site. Let me apply. So what I've given an account, client push installation account, then the installation properties, and I'm not pushing it to all the machines. I want to just push it to assets and compliance. I want to push only to this machine here, which is mate S01, right? So before doing that, let me switch on the machine. So this is my Windows 7 client machine, and so what are the prerequisites to use client push installation? So first thing is the account with which you're trying to install should have local administrative privileges. Yes, we do have that, right? We have already set SCM administrator, the domain administrator. Second thing is you need to have this file and print sharing enabled. Change advanced sharing. This turn on file and print sharing, right? So why is this required? So say suppose if you are trying to, what is the machine name? Test01, right? Test May test01. When I'm trying to access the admin share, which is $C, it will not allow you to go to the admin share unless and until the file and print sharing is enabled. And that is required for this client machine, for Sccm to contact the client machine and copy the binaries. See, it says Windows cannot access the $C. So for that, what you will do is you will enable the file and print sharing, save changes. And what I will also do is I'll make sure that firewall will not block it. Let me also stop the firewall. In production, what you'll do, you'll not stop the firewall. Firewall will be there. You'll have an exception. You'll give exception to port 80 and port 443. If you are using HTTP, port 80. If you are using HTTPS, port 443, right? And SCM has some set of firewall ports, not just these two. So there are like 10 to 15 firewall ports. So you will mention all those, not only for client agent installation, going forward for software distribution, operating system deployment, for different things there are different ports. So in production, what you can do is you can give those port numbers to your Wintel administrators, and you can ask them to create inbound and outbound rules and open those ports on the firewall. If any one of you wants those port details, I can share that. It's already available on the TechNet library, but still if you want, I can share that port numbers. Okay, so let me now check from the SCM server. Right now I'm able to access the admin share. Right, so now the server has the May SCM server have connectivity to the client machine. Right, so admin share is there. It has administrative privileges to install the client account, and firewall is not there. Okay, I think we are good. So now what will happen? So before I trigger it, let me show you, let me explain you what will happen here. So I'm doing client push installation, right? I'm right clicking and saying install client. So then what will happen? First, under C Windows, CCM setup. Okay, so these files will, the CCM setup.exe will be copied, and once it is copied, it will contact the management point and then the distribution point, and it will start downloading all the prerequisites under the same location. So when I say prerequisites, it is like MS XML, Silverlight, etc. Okay, VC++. It will download all of them prerequisites, and finally it will trigger the client MSI installation. Right, now how do you identify whether the client agent is installed or not? So what will happen is when you go and check in the task manager, you will see first CCM setup.exe will be running. Right, then you will see client.msi, which is the MSI exec.exe will be running, and then you'll find once this is installed, you'll have ccm exec.exe, which is the service. Right, that means that the SCM installation is completed, and if you go to the services, you'll find something called SMS agent host service. Okay, and you'll find under control panel, you'll see the client agent. Right, so let me just recap. So when you're triggering that installation, it is creating a folder. Under that folder, it will first download the exe. Once you have the exe, it will communicate to the management point and the DP and start downloading all the prerequisites. So once the prerequisites are downloaded, it will trigger the client.msi. Right, so this is the steps. These are the steps. So how do you identify that these steps are going through? You'll go to the task manager. You can see ccm setup.exe is running. After some time, you'll find that client.msi will be triggered, and finally ccm exec.exe will run, which is the base exe behind this service. You'll find a service, and under control panel you will have the client agent. So how to monitor and what are the log files which are helpful in this situation? If you are looking it from the client side, it is ccm setup.log file. Okay, if you're looking from the server side, that means if you're logged on to server and you want to check from the server, then ccm.log file. Okay, so I'm just giving all this information upfront because the moment you trigger, you might not have time to explain all this. It will be real fast, the installation. Right, so let's observe. Any questions?
Yeah, I have. Related to the SCM log from server. Uh, if you open, does it have a machine detail also to identify the details?
Yes, it will have all those details. We'll look into it right now.
Okay.
Okay, so let me trigger it. Right click, install client, next, install the software, next, next. That's it. You're done from this side. Now let's go to the Mate S01. Okay, and let me open C Windows. See, CCM setup folder has been downloaded at just now 7:17 a.m. and under that you have this CCM setup, and it is downloading all the other things. So what you can do is quickly look at the CCM setup.log file from the client side. So and let me also open the task manager. CCM setup.exe is running here, right? If I do my memory, you can see CCM setup.exe, and after some time you'll find the msiexec.exe as well. So how do you look at these log files? You need a log file tool, right? Which is CM trace. So it will be under your may sccm slash sms underscore may folder, tools, CM trace. Let me open this log file from the CM trace, right? So I'm pausing it for a moment, pausing the log file, and I want to show you what it is doing. So it is checking whether VC++ is there, whether Windows Update Agent is there, policy platform, Silverlight, and all of them it is checking. It says all of them doesn't exist, so it is downloading all of them here, right? It says I'm downloading those files, and as you can see here, you'll see more and more full. See, previously you don't have all these prerequisites, right? Now it is downloading all of them because it didn't find them on the client machine. And as part of ccm setup.exe here, now you can also see all these different applications getting installed, right? It is still running here. Ccm setup.exe is still running, and each time it is triggering one of these here. And if you go back to the log file, so failed to load a particular DLL, that's fine. If it is a serious error or anything as such, your installation will stop and it will say that installation failed with an exit code. So meanwhile, if it fails with any such kind of ignorable errors, you don't need to bother about that unless and until you see the final installation getting failed.
It is downloading from where?
It is downloading from the distribution point, your SCCM distribution point.
Okay.
So what will happen is your client agent, if I go back to your SCCM server, if you go to software library, you have not created the client agent, but the client package is already there and it has been already distributed to your DP. So when I talk about distribution point and creating like software distribution, right, then you'll understand. But the moment your SCM installed, you're installing your primary site server, right? So a package is already created here and it is already distributed to your DP. So it is now downloading from that DP to the test machine. Okay, so as you can see, it is installing VC++ now. It says this is the parameters it is using from C Windows CCM setup VC++. I'm using no restart, install quiet. So this is the parameters which is using for installing VC++. And you can see here VC++ is running, right? So now your question was if I'm looking at from server, how does that look like, right? So if you are clicking on May Sccm here and go to your log files on the server, so you must be seeing something like CCM here. There you go, CCM. And this one will tell you, I have created a service on machine mate S01, right? It will tell you what and all it is doing there. So you can see it downloading the VC++ and other things as well. Let me go back, go above and see from where did it start. 517. See the inbox files, each and everything that it has done on that particular machine You can see it here, and you asked for the machine name, right? So that's where, so it says I've searching for SMS client installation under maytest01 admin dollar, right? This is the OS version which says Windows 7, right? I found the OS version. I have verified the copying existence of the destination directory under admin $ccm setup, and I'm copying the client files to that particular machine, and finally I'm triggering ccm setup.exe, right? So each and every step is clearly mentioned here, so you'll know if at any point of time it fails, it'll tell, okay, files are not copied, or because of some IAS issue or some permission issue. So that you can see from the server side. So this is what you are able to see from the server. And when you go back to the client machine, so currently it is installing Windows Update Agent. It has already installed VC, and then it installed, okay, there are different components of VC++, all of them are installed. Now it is installing Windows Update Agent. So it's not downloading from internet, right? Because as you can see, this machine, it doesn't have internet. So it's downloading everything from the local machine, where the server, the management point and the DP. Guys, any questions? Anil, I see your name twice. Are you online?
Yes, yes, Manohar. Like just now I have disconnected it and joined again. So maybe,
It's okay, it's okay. Fine, no issues.
yeah.
Guys, any questions? Are you able to follow me? Okay, installer requested a reboot. I think it will suppress the reboot. It will not reboot the machine. It will just suppress it and it will move further.
Manohar,
Yes,
if you say distribution point, it's like a member server or
distribution point is like a member server. So basically what happens is, it is one of the site system roles. Like management point is a site system role, right? So any server where you can make it as a distribution point, and the moment you make a distribution point, all it will do is it will create a file share. Sccm will create a file share so that any applications that you wanted to push to the client agent, they will be staged on that distribution point. They are just staged on the
okay.
distribution point, and based on the request from the client machine, they will be given to the client machine to download. It is a staging area. Distribution point is nothing but a staging area.
Oh,
Okay. So anyways, when we discuss about software distribution, I'll go through those steps in detail.
okay, you will show, right? Okay, fine.
Yeah, yeah. When we are talking about software distribution, I'll show it. We are just in the beginning sessions, right? And okay, so ccm setup.exe is running, and it has already triggered msiexcc.exe. And let's see, what is it downloading now? It is registering the different types of libraries, DLL files. Typically it shouldn't take this much time. It will be completed in 2-3 minutes, but here I guess because of the size of RAM that I gave, right? I just gave 1 GB RAM for the Windows 7 machine, the client machine. So because of that, the process is a little bit slow. So meanwhile, let me go back to this wizard, this location, and let me talk about, yeah. So SCM client push in the wizard we have seen site-wide client push, which is enabling from the SCM client installation settings. Then you have pushing it from SCM software updates. So what will happen is if you select this software update push, okay, so this also I'll tell you just a high level, so because we have not went into the details of how SCCM software updates are pushed and all that, right? So we didn't understand it at this point of time, but I'll just give you a high level overview. So basically understand that there is a server called software update point, okay, there is a server which is used by SCCM to push software updates to the client machines, right? That anyways we'll learn after after few classes. We'll learn that there is a server, there will be a server called software update point which is responsible to deploy software updates to the client machines. Now what you can do is you can give you can make sure this SCM client agent also to install by the software update point. You can tell it like just like you're installing other software updates, install client agent is also a part of software updates. Okay, now unless you don't have a client agent on the client machine, so how will it know where is its software update point, right? So for that what you need to do is there are two steps you need to do. First thing is here when I go to SCCM server and go to the administration, we already looked into client installation settings right here, and we looked into client push. So there is something called software update based client installation. So you'll select the software update based client installation and you'll just enable it. That's it. So the moment you enable it, it will understand, SCM will understand that okay, I have to install SCM client agent as part of software updates. So it will understand that part. Now the second part to it is how will the client agent know that there is an SCM server from where that it has to download, right? For that what you'll do is you'll go to group policies. You'll again rely on your group policy because till now there is no SCM client agent, right? The first thing you're trying to install is SCM client agent, but you're trying to install SCM client agent from SCCM software update point, right? So for that you'll go to group policies and it will, in the group policies you will tell that okay, this is your software update point. So you have to give in the group policies saying that okay, if the client machine requires any updates, it has to go to XYZ server. That's when the client machine will contact, once it gets the group policy, it will contact the update server, SCCM update server. It will ask, do I have any updates? Then SCM server will say, yes, I have one update which is called SCM client agent, and it will install the SCM client agent on this machine. So that is how SCCM software update based installation will be done, right? So there are two parts to it. One is enabling it from the console, saying that okay, push the client agent as part of software update. That is one part. Second part is from the group policy telling the client machine where the software update point is, right? Any questions here? Okay, so if you go here, now it says CCM setup is exiting with return code 0. So anything which exits with 0 is a successful, right? Successful installation. Now it says this is successful. Now if you go back here, what is exe you have? You don't have CCM setup.exe, right? You must be having CCM exec.exe, right? Now the setup has been completed and there is CCM exec.exe. So how do you check the installation completed? The first thing is you will go to services.msc and there must be a SMS agent host service, right? Can you see SMS agent host here? So there is SMS agent host service, and if you go to the properties of this service, that is nothing but your CCM exec.exe, right guys? So C Windows CCM exec.exe is the exe which is responsible for your service. So the moment if this exe crashes or if the service is stopped, your SCM client agent will not work, right? So this is one way to check that the SMS agent host service is there. The other way is you go to control panel, you will see the client agent here, configuration manager, right? So it says this is my management point, may SCM. So how did it get the management point details? It got this from the Active Directory. Since you have extended Active Directory schema, right? You have not given any management point details, right? So automatically it has pulled from there. It knows that okay, this is my assigned management point, and this is how your client agent looks like. So now you know your client agent is installed. Any questions in installing client agent? If you go to Sccm here and go to assets and compliance now, see the device. So now it says client installed, yes. Site code is May and the client is active. Right? Previously it was no, just like your May DC and May SIM, it was no, right? Now it is saying the client agent is installed, the so and so is the site code and the machine is active. You can also check that from the monitoring node. You have something called client status and you have client activity. It will tell how many machines are active and how many are inactive or no client installed. Since you have just one machine, it says the one machine is active. Right guys? Make sense? Any questions here?
So right now you have shown the client agent installation via software update, right?
Not via software update. I've shown from SCCM console, right? The client push installation. Where did we use software update here? Manju?
Yeah, yeah.
So what is that I did here? I've right clicked the
Mhm.
machine. I've right clicked the machine and I said install client. There's no software update there, right?
Okay, okay,
It,
direct. Okay.
it is a client
Doing
push
that, doing
installation,
it.
right? I did a client push installation. If I want to do site-wide push, I'll go to administration and I'll say here client installation settings, client push installation, and if I select enable, that is site-wide installation. So automatic push, right? And the third one
Okay.
is software update. So if I have to enable software update, I have to go to here and enable it here for the software update based client installation. Then I have to create a group policy. So what I'm telling you is I'm not showing you the software update part because you didn't understand at this point because we don't have any SCM software update concept, right? We haven't gone till there. We are just installing the client installation. We are just installing the client agent, right? So that's the reason I just showed you the client push wizard and the site-wide client push installation. So most of the times, 99% of the times, what you will do is you will use site-wide client push. That is just enable that checkbox, right? So that is the first step you will do so that if you have 100 machines in your organization, at least 90 machines will get from here, site-wide client push installation. Say suppose some machines are not getting it, right? Then you'll go to client push wizard. Okay, that is right clicking onto that particular client machine and then installing the client. So that is the second way. Say suppose even after second way it is not getting installed, or maybe there are some issues after client agent is installed, day to day you find some issues, then you can go and install manually. If when troubleshooting, right, you can install it manually, or you can use any scripts to install it. So traditionally the first method is site-wide client push installation, second is client push wizard, third is you'll go for manual installation. These are the most used client agent installation deployment methods. Is it clear
Okay.
guys?
So now you, yeah. So now you have shown SCM client push wizard, is it?
Yeah, I've shown client push wizard and I have also shown you site-wide client push.
Yeah.
Right?
Got it.
Those two things I've shown you. So wait a minute, just give me a minute. I just lost the track, what I was telling you. I wanted to give you some other information here. Fine. So let me go back to this machine. So the client agent is installed. Okay. So again, Anil is dropped. I don't understand, guys. Do you have any other issues while joining to the session? Because I'm seeing guys dropping off, coming back in. Is it because of your local network issues, like some problems at your end, or is it something to do with the from my end?
Oh, I guess Manor.
I'm not sure it is connecting here.
Okay, okay. Sai, oh man, it's right time. Network is gone from my side.
It looks like Manohar is got dropped.
Guys, I'm back. Can you hear
Yeah.
me now?
Yeah.
Okay, this time it's a network outage from my side. I was just asking the same question and suddenly my power gone out. Okay,
Okay.
can you all see my screen now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so so these are the different components which are installed as part of your SCM client agent installation, right? And here you have action items. So I'll discuss about these action items shortly. Today itself we will discuss on that. And this is the SCM site code. Okay, and if you see cache, see the by default one is 5120. So if you want to increase the cache, this is where you do it, right? Or if you want to delete files manually, this is how you do it. You can delete files, change location, or increase size. As I told you, if you wanted to do it centrally from one location, as part of site-wide push installation when you're doing, or the client installation properties, that's where you can select the client installation properties as SMS cache size, right? If you're not giving there, by default it will come 5120, which is the 5 GB, and manually you can do it for individual machine. You can increase or decrease the size here. Okay. Now let me take you to the actions item. So here I'll not go through each one of them because these cycles, as and when we progress further, when I talk about different things like software updates or application deployments, then I'll get into those. By default, the one that is required is machine policy retrieval and evaluation cycle. So what is this machine policy retrieval and evaluation cycle? This is the cycle which is responsible for, okay, this is the cycle which is responsible for the client agent to communicate with the management point. Okay, so this cycle which will run every 60 minutes. So every 1 hour the cycle will run. Okay, or else if you wanted to run it right now, you can right click and say run now. But by default, this cycle will run once in every 60 minutes and it will talk to your management point. It will download the policy. If there are anything which is targeted to this machine, right, it will download that information and accordingly it will do that action item. Like, so it could be installing a software or installing a software update, any information, anything which your management point tells this client machine to do, accordingly it will perform an action, right? So
That cycle or only that cycle or all cycles runs in 60 seconds.
only that cycle runs in every 60 minutes. So for different cycles you have different schedules.
Okay.
So the machine policy will run every 60 minutes, right? So I want to show you on the console side as well. There is something called client settings here. Okay, so there are default client settings. So let me open this default client settings and go to the client policy. So as you can see here, it says client policy polling interval 60 minutes. So every 60 minutes it will communicate to you, communicate with the management point, right? And let me write down this somewhere so that you'll understand the workflow. I think I've explained this yesterday when somebody asked, like Anil, I guess he asked about something related to software distribution and I explained it. Let me show it to you here. So when you have the SCM client, you have installed it, right? So there you have a machine policy. This policy will run every 60 minutes, once in 60 minutes. So what is this policy is doing? It is communicating with management point. It is asking, do I have anything? Guys, can you hear me? Hello. Hello. Come on. Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, okay. See, let me set the expectation to you. So what will happen is whenever power goes in my house, the network will drop. Immediately my connection will go to a generator, the inverter, right? But still there is a drop in my network, and till now I was on the inverter, right? Now again, what happened was the power is back. So whenever the power comes back, again my router restarts, and there is a network drop, right, guys? So
No
that's what
problem.
that's what exactly happened. So you can expect this to happen multiple times in a day. But what will happen is every time there is a network drop, you can expect it to disconnect twice. Okay. So let's go back. So SCM client agent is there. Machine policy is set to download every 60 minutes. So communicating with the management point, it will talk to the management point. It will ask management point if it has any policy, right? So what is a policy? I explained yesterday, right? If you are trying to install a software, right? Or if you are trying to install a software update, or you wanted to push OSD, you're doing a OSD, right? Anything for that matter, anything that you're trying to do on a client machine, right? It will be converted into a policy file or an XML file, right? This policy XML file is kept ready with the management point, and it will send that policy XML file once in every 60 minutes, right? So it will send that XML file, or I'll put it in a much more better way. So policy is sent to client machine, right, every 60 minutes. Now it will evaluate the policy. The client machine will evaluate the policy. It will see what is there inside the policy. What is the policy is asking the client machine to do, whether to install some application or what it has to do. So accordingly, the action will be taken. Okay, whatever is it, it will take the action. Now after the action is taken, so I'll say action taken here. Once the action is taken, then it has to send the communication back to the management point saying that I have already took the action, and uh, this is the written code. It could be success or failure, whatever it is. So whatever is the written code or exit code is sent back to MP. With this, the particular policy thing has been completed, right? Now every 15 minutes, just like every 16 minutes, every 60 minutes it is sending a it is downloading the policy. Every 15 minutes it will send the state messages. State messages are nothing but just like your exit code, right? So similarly, if any action which is happening on the client machine, so every 15 minutes it will say send back to the SCM server management point saying that okay, this is what is happening with me, this is what is happening with me. So it will be keep on sending that information back to the management point. Clear? So what we are trying to do here is, as part of the client agent installation, when you're installing a client agent, the as part of the client agent, there are certain actions which are getting applied to this. So these actions are nothing but these are periodic events which will run on the client machine. Some runs every 60 minutes, something runs every 15 minutes, something runs every 1 hour, or maybe once in 7 days, right? These are different schedules. They all run for a different purpose. Each one has its own purpose, right? Now, what you can do from the SCCM console is you can define certain settings related to these cycles. You can tell that, okay, this cycle should run not once in 60 minutes, it has to run every 5 minutes. Or you can set certain parameters to it. Okay, all that you can do it from the console. So for that, I have shown you console, and I'm showing you here client policy is by default 60 minutes. Say suppose you wanted this poll to happen every 30 minutes, you can change it from here, right? Similarly, the state messaging. If you see state messaging, reporting cycle is by default every 15 minutes. So if you want to change it, you can come back here and you can make the change. Like that, these are all different settings related to the client agent. I will explain each one of them as and when we are progressing into that particular topic. Say suppose tomorrow I am talking about hardware inventory. I'll explain what does this mean. See, as you can see here, hardware inventory runs once in 7 days, right? So similarly, you will have software deployment. Okay, software schedule re-evaluation, even that runs once in 7 days. You have software inventory which runs once in 7 days, right? So like that, software updates once in 7 days. So for everything you have some schedule, some other settings, everything are there. So all these I will talk about as and when we progress. Say suppose tomorrow I'm talking about software deployment, I will definitely touch base this, right? So for today, since we are talking about just the client agent installation, I can talk about client policy, which is set from here. Just like you have client policy, you have user policy as well. So whether you wanted to enable user policy or you don't want user based policy, you can define it here, right? And similarly, when you go to I think even this you will understand only when we talk about software distribution. Maybe computer restart is something that I can talk about. So computer restart, so what will happen, sometimes you require your system to be restarted, right? Because you pushed some software or you pushed some update and you wanted your end user machines to restart for that application or update to be installed successfully. So what you can do is you cannot directly restart the machine. The user might be working on something else. He might be working on some of the products, right? He might be in a meeting or something like that. So what you will do is, first of all, you'll give him a temporary notification saying that in next XYZ minutes your machine is going to restart. And just before last 15 minutes, what you will tell him is you will make it a mandatory box so that he cannot snooze it. You'll just give him a mandatory box and starting and the box cannot be closed. And you'll tell him that in next 15 minutes your machine is going to restart, and you cannot snooze it, you cannot pause it, or you cannot do anything. So all you can do is keep saving your data, and so that your machine will be restarted, right? So by default is like 90 minutes you'll get a temporary notification, and last 15 minutes you'll get this the final notification, right? So if you want to increase it, you can increase. So certainly generally what others would do in organization, they'll put it this as big as 600 minutes. That means for 10 hours. So they'll tell, okay, next 10 hours your machine is going to restart, and last 15 minutes or last 30 minutes will be the final reminder, right? So all the settings that you're doing on this client settings here, they are getting applied to your computer, they're getting applied to your Sccm client agent, right? So whenever you make these changes, even this change is a policy, right? And when will this policy affect on the client machine? The next 60 minutes cycle. So whenever the 60 minute cycle run on the client machine, that's when this policy is going to apply there, right? Any questions here, guys?
So we are going to do this practically also, right?
Uh, Practical in the sense for computer client agent and client policy, there's nothing that we can show here. But as we move into software deployment and other things, yes, we'll
Uh,
do it practically.
okay. Okay.
Because for client policy, I cannot show you anything practically like how things changes. But once I talk about software distribution, right, then you'll understand. Because anyways, we have to definitely work on these things when we are proceeding further. Okay, let me uh, leave it as 600 minutes. Okay. So what you can also do is, if you don't want to wait for 60 minutes, right? You have pushed an application. You don't want to wait for 60 minutes for that application for the client machine to know that an application has been pushed to it, right? So what you can do is, you can go to the client machine and click on run now. Okay. So this will override that 60-minute cycle and it will run immediately, or else from the console, you can right click that machine. I don't know if I have the right click tools. I don't think I have it. Okay, so I don't have the third-party tools. So typically what will happen is there are some third-party tools like right-click tools. So if you have those right-click tools, what you can do is you can right-click and you can initiate the machine policy and other things even from the console as well. Okay, so guys, do you have any questions in today's session? So let me just give a recap of what we discussed. So since discovery is done and boundaries are done, so today we went with client agent installation. So these are the default methods how you can install client agent. Like you can install to group policy, manual, scripts, software deployment tools, logon scripts, PSX are the, you can put it in the image. So when you say image, so as part of operating system deployment, we create images, right? Windows client images. So what you can do is you can first install the client agent and then capture an image. And when you deploy this image to 10 different machines, all the 10 machines will get the client agent. But when you are doing like that, you have to make sure that uh, all the 10 machines will not get the same GUI ID, right? The client agent GUI ID should not be the same. So there are certain steps to follow. But anyways, that we'll talk about when we get into operating system deployment. Because in operating system deployment class, we will create a Windows 10 image and we will deploy that Windows 10 image to the Windows 7 machine. So at that point of time, we'll look into this client agent, putting this client agent as part of the image. How does it work? Okay. And then we discussed about SCM client push wizard and site-wide client push installation, right? So we did client push wizard. Software updates is also another way wherein you just need to enable from the console and then point your client machine to the software update point from the group policy. So we have looked into CCM setup.exe properties and client.msi properties, right? I've explained on CCM cache and other things, and I've explained how the client push workflow will happen. So this will help you in the interview process and also in the troubleshooting process. So tomorrow when you're trying to install client agents and if the client agents are not getting installed, so you know exactly what are the steps. So first it goes to CCM setup and then the exe will be triggering, prerequisites will be triggering, and you also know which log file to look at, right? At the client said CCM setup.log file, at the server CCM.log file, right? And then we talked about the client settings. So I've not gone through each of the client settings because those I will discuss as and when required. So for now, I've discussed about the machine policy. I explained the process, like how frequently it will talk to the management point and proceed further, right? So I think we are ready for inventory. So tomorrow we can get into the inventory. So by default, what will happen is since we have installed the client agent, so the hardware inventory cycle might have run immediately, right? First it will run for the first time, it will run immediately, and after that it will run once in a week, right? So what will happen is if you want to see the hardware inventory, you go to start and go to resource explorer. If you click here hardware, so it has got all the information, right? Like the computer system, its time zone, disk drives, what are the disk drives. So it has already got the every information. Like if I check the memory, so I told you this has got 1 GB of memory, right? So it will get the it can get the memory, the network adapter, the operating system, it's Windows 7 Enterprise. Not only just this information, even the applications which are installed. Wait a minute, where is the add remove programs? Installed applications, right? On this machine, if you see on the client machine, all we have is the prerequisites were installed, right? We haven't installed any other application. So if you go to add remove programs here, Silverlight, VC++ 2005, 2013 and 2013. So it has already sent the inventory to SCM server. So I'm looking at from the SCCM server, right? It says there are 2013 Silverlight and 2005. So install application 64-bit, 32-bit. So everything is available there. So tomorrow we'll look into the inventory management, how this inventory is being sent to SCCM server, and what if you want a specific information to be sent to be collected as part of inventory. So these are the default information which SCM is pulling it. Say suppose you want specific data, you wanted a particular registry information, okay, you want a particular file version, whether that file is available on the client machine or not, a particular application is installed or not, what is the version of that application. Like that, if you want granular information, how to make use of inventory and how to collect the data, and then once the data is collected, how to see it. So this is one way of seeing it, like resource explorer, but I'm seeing just for one machine. Say suppose I want to get all machines where VC++ 2013 is installed. So how do you get that inventory data? So how does reports work here? So all that information we'll learn tomorrow about the inventory management, right? If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, we'll wind up the session for today.
Uh, Manoj?
Yes, is it Manju or Amar?
Yeah. So I have three questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like this hardware inventory which you have shown is usable for anywhere or just an information read only.
No, that's what I told you, right? So this is a resource explorer, what you're seeing here. So tomorrow's session, I'll explain you what are the different ways of getting the inventory data. And say suppose you want to get a report out of it, export it to Excel, PDF or whatever format. So all that we'll learn tomorrow. It's not just
Okay.
a readable format. You can even export it to Excel or wherever.
Okay. And a second question. Uh, as you said that image can be captured and you have said while explaining. So my question is like the image capturing for the Windows or any OS. Is there any possibility from SCM or it's an other party?
No, it is part of SCCM. So as part of SCCM, we have operating system deployment classes. Okay, so let me show it here to you. Like what are the sessions that I'm going to cover? So I'm going to talk about inventory management,
Mhm.
right? So after that,
So the image. Okay.
you have software distribution, you have software updates management, and after that you have operating system deployment. You have compliance management, reporting. So these are the things which I'm going to cover. So as part of OSD, operating system deployment, this is where what we'll do is we'll capture image and then we'll deploy image. So while we capture and deploy image, I will talk about how to capture image, including the client agent and with some applications and how to deploy it along with some drivers. So all that we'll discuss here. So task sequences and other things. Okay. So it is part of SCCM installation. It is part of SCM.
Okay. Okay. And another one.
Mhm.
Uh, So at the beginning, when we are talking about the tools, in which way we can install a software. So I told you that there is a third-party tool which will be used by SCM and we'll push it. So my question is like, how third-party tool can be linked with the SCM, where it will be usable for pushing the software.
No, no, no. It's not a third-party tool. Will not be integrated to SCM to software push. Software deployment,
Uh,
software deployment. Anyways, SCM is doing. But what we are trying to do here is, see, how does SCM will do a software distribution? At first, it needs to have a client agent, right? Without client agent, it cannot talk to the server, and software distribution cannot happen. So to install
uh,
client, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, in my previous organization, it's not a tool. Maybe it's a web-based. So the software deployment named, I mean, they have owned it. They have renamed as a customized way on their own, and they was using it. So just to ask, like, how it will be linked there.
I'll explain that. I'll explain that. So that's what I'm telling. So basically what will happen is software distribution, you are pushing it from the SCCM itself, right? So in order to push the software distribution, first of all, there should be a client agent on the end user machine. Here, what I'm trying to tell you is, if the client agent itself is not there on the end user machine, you need to push it using some third party. You can also push it using some third party tools. If not from SCCM, you can also push it using some third party tools. For example, in your environment, if you have Alteris, Semantics Alteris, right, or if you have Landesk, so there are many other tools which also does the same kind of activity. So if you already have Alteris environment and you are trying to move to SCM environment, right? You can either push the client agent from SCM, like the client push wizard and all that I've shown, or else one of the methods could be like, since Altris is already maintaining your environment for pushing the softwares. So as part of that, you can say that, okay, go ahead and push this client agent on all the machines. So since Altris is already connected to your client machines, it has its own client agent, everything is working. So it will push this SCM software, so SCM client agent to all the machines. So now you have SCM client agent on all the machines, and slowly you can move to SCM and shut down your Altris going further. So that is when you're migrating from another tool like Altris to SCM. It is not like integrating. Now coming to your question of the web-based application. So what will happen is by default SCCM in the background has something called SDK, right? Software Development Kit will be there. Now, what your organization will do is, many organizations will do this, what they will do is, they don't want to give access to the SCCM console to every user, every technician. So if they start giving console access to everyone, right? So there are chances of making some mistakes. So say suppose somebody adds, there is an operating system deployment collection. I know this happened some time back in one of the banks. Okay, it's a multinational company, multinational bank. So there is a bank wherein there's a collection which has a deployment task sequence which will deploy all the Windows 10 machines. So any machine which is part of that collection will be built into a Windows 10 machine. So by mistake, somebody had added some group of servers to that collection. So now what happened? So before they could realize what's happening, all their servers, the production servers started formatting and started getting Windows 10 operating system on them. So such blunders might happen, right? So to avoid that, what people will do is instead of giving access to the console, most of the times they'll create homegrown applications. So in-house applications that is nothing but a HTA file, a HTML based application, or some kind of using your .NET skills, right? So VB skills. So what they will do is they'll create an interface, and in the back end, all it will do is it will connect to the SCCM and add a machine to the collection or do a software distribution. So for that it will be just using SCCM itself. So if you want to create your own HTA application or your own VB.NET, yes, you can do that. All that you need to know is you need to have is SCCM SDK, the software development kit. If you have that kit, it is available from TechNet. You can download that, and if you have coding knowledge, you can create your own HTML based applications or VB based applications. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's only to avoid, most of the companies does that to avoid giving direct access to the console. So now what will happen? Your focus, the technician's focus is only towards that third-party tool that has been given by your company. So you just know where to click a radio button and where to give a computer name and just say select and next. That's the only option given to you. You don't know what's happening in the background, how it is connecting to the SCM console and what is happening in the background. That is how you code it.
Okay.
So, Amar and Sai, I've heard very less from you both guys. So, is it Greek and Latin today, or it's pretty easy? And how is it today?
This was much easier for me, Manoj, so not many questions. More on the client end.
Mhm.
I was quite aware about little bit, but not in depth, like the settings part and all.
But is it helpful today's session, or was it completely boring for you?
No, 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 it was helpful.
Okay, okay. What about you, Sai?
Yeah, Ram. Okay, I understood, but I want to complete the session once again. I mean, practically. Then I guess I may have more questions.
Yeah, that's the very reason I've asked you to be with your lab by over the weekend. So today, as we go further, starting from tomorrow, I will be talking about inventory management. So everything which I show here, it will look nice and rosy, but I want you to do it practically. So try, if possible, by tomorrow, if you can build up your server and ready, that would be great.
No, I'm done with my servers. Only thing is I need to start the configuration part. I mean, the distributions point.
So where are you right now? So have you installed client agent on your client machines?
No, no, not just the SCCM. SCCM is installed. The prerequisitions and everything was done last day,
Okay,
yesterday.
okay.
I've installed the SCCM with no. Actually, I find some errors with where the BITS was not enabling. So I've
Mm-hmm.
gone through the uh, log file and sorted out the problem. The problem
Okay,
was I have not enabled IS6 compatibility. That's the reason the BITS was not getting enabled.
got it, got it.
So
Okay, so
then I
right now, is your server stable now? Everything is installed? Is the server stable?
yes,
Okay, okay.
yes.
Good to hear that. And did you configure boundaries and discoveries?
No, not yet. Today I'll complete this boundaries and the client installation.
Perfect. Sounds sweet. Sounds sweet. Okay. So before I wind up for today's session, I'll just ask you one question. Any one of you can answer that. Where are we? Yep. So I told you will do site-wide client push installation, right? And after site-wide client push installation, say suppose some of the machines do not get automatically if they don't get SCM client agent, you'll right click that machine and you'll push the client, right? So after how many days or uh, how many days or how many times it will try SCM site, how many times it will try to do that client installation, and after when you have to start pushing it from the your own you have to use the client push wizard. Any guesses? Or if you know the answer, you can tell me.
So 60 minutes is the time it will be trying keeps, uh, and the days I'm not sure much exactly.
See, 60 minutes is once your client agent is already installed, and then the 60 minutes is the time between your client agent and the management point. Now we are talking about a machine, a Windows 7 machine, which does not know anything about SCM because it doesn't have any SCM client agent. Then the 60 minutes will not come into picture, right? Because there is no policy on it. There is no client agent on it. If the client agent is there, then every 60 minutes it will be talking to the management point. That's after the fact. So before the fact, if there is no client agent itself is installed, so how many times SCM will try to install the client agent, and after which it will say that I'm giving up, you have to now install on your own. So how many times it will try? So I'm just asking you this question because you'll be exploring it and thinking about it. That's it. So the straightforward the answer is it will try for every 1 hour till I guess 7 days. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Yep. I think that's the one. So it'll try for every 1 hour till 7 days. Let me just get my basics correct. Give me just a minute. Hello, guys, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay. So I was talking about this client push installation. Um, Wait a minute. Where is the site-wide client push installation? I don't have the information here. Before I give some information, I wanted to. Okay. So if the site server cannot contact the client computer or start the setup process, it automatically repeats the installation attempt every 1 hour for up to 7 days until it succeeds, right? So I just wanted to make sure that whatever the information I'm giving is correct. So it will for every 1 hour up to 7 days. So that's the thing. So client push, it will be keep on trying for every 1 hour. So after that, after 7 days, then it will say that, okay, I'm giving it up, and then you have to install it manually on your own. So this could be a possible interview question, or sometimes your client, when you're designing this for your client might ask it. Okay, it's a valuable information.
yeah, yeah. I think it is by default 7 days.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling. 1 hour till 7 days. Up to 7 days, it will be it will keep on doing it for every 1 hour. After that, you have to do it manually if it still fails. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else, guys? Good for today?
Uh, Actually, I have a question, not with related to this subject, this portion,
Mm-hmm.
but interrelated. Yes, it's interrelated to the SCM. If you don't mind, then I'll ask.
Okay, in that case, I'll do one thing. I'll stop the recording and I'll also, it's up to Amar and Sai to stay back or drop. You can feel free to
Not
drop.
not the so personal, but it is something with related to subject.
No,
So
no,
some
I understand that.
from
I understand that.